Josh Watson from Planning Solutions.
We both come up.
You can all you both come up, yes, thanks. And is this 5 minutes in total or 5 minutes each?
5 minutes each, and if I can have Denham go first. I'll
Certainly.
address the technical considerations.
Okay, thank you.
Good morning, and thank you for the opportunity. I'll be speaking in support of the development, but against condition 8 of the approval. What I want to do is briefly go through some of the technical or semi-technical aspects and reasons which has been put forward with respect to condition 8. Basically, Main Roads in their submission, they raise an issue of weaving, and that's vehicles weaving as they turn left from Albany Highway and want to weave right and then turn right into the crossover on Williams. Well, that's an illogical movement for anyone, because if you want to access the service station, you continue straight on Albany Highway and simply turn left into the site from the Albany Highway crossover. So that's a very unlikely scenario. And the city's main is based on traffic signals. We know that that's a regular occurrence at during peak time at a lot of similar intersections. But there is a couple of important points to note. One is generally driver behavior nowadays, that if you're coming to a red light and you know there is a crossover and people are indicating to turn right, you leave a gap for them to turn right. That occurs all the time. But technically, the CIDRA analysis is based on 95 percentile, and I have discussed this before. What that means is that the result which is presented only occurs 5% of the time, and 95% of the time the result would be better. So the Q-backs from the signal, which are reported during the peak hours, so 2 hours of the day, only occurring during 3 minutes of each of those hours. So we are talking about 6 minutes during a 24-hour period that occasionally that crossover may get blocked. And to try to prohibit the right turns just because the crossover may get blocked 6, 10 minutes, 15 minutes during a 24-hour period for a development which operates 24/7 and relies on passing traffic, it's hard and unjustified. The other thing to note, again, CIDRA results, the CIDRA is done as a network, i.e. the combination of the crossover on Williams and the signalized intersection. The CIDRA doesn't report any queue back for the right turners into the development. So CIDRA basically saying, considering the 95 percentile, there would be always gaps for the few vehicles who want to turn right during the peak hours. So it's not an issue. We don't have any queues reported. The other item to consider, I've got an image in my submission which shows that there is a 4 meter wide painted median. So if a vehicle wants to turn right into the development, they can stage in that area, and other vehicles who want to bypass them can comfortably do so. So again, those right turns, considering CIDRA doesn't report any queue backs, should not affect any of the traffic operations. And also, if we look at the track record for that crossover, I understand the site is not operating now, but it has been operating. And the crash record for the 5-year period ending in December 2023 shows only one crash that may be related to that crossover. So over a 5-year period, only one crash. So, if you are looking at the safety aspect of it, you conclude that there is absolutely no existing evidence for any safety concerns associated with right turn lanes. And the other aspect to consider is the tanker movements. Now, tanker movements turn left into that crossover, but they have to turn right because they come in the side, access the field point, do a U-back and turn right because the Albany Highway crossover is not wide enough for the tankers to exit it. And for obvious reasons, we are not proposing any modifications to that crossover. Now, if there is a median, then tankers won't be able to access the site. We either got to do a total redesign of the site or completely widen the Albany Highway crossover. As we know, usually we are asked that the tankers and service vehicle need to turn left lane correctly onto Albany Highway. So we end up with a 12-15 meter crossover, 2 years delay to the project because we got to do a design process approval with main roads. And unfortunately, we know that there is always add-ons when we get involved with these things. Oh, can you relocate that services? Can you underground that power line? There are always add-ons as you go through the 15%, 18, 85%, and 100% design stages. So that aspect of it is the most critical aspect of it, and in my view, is equivalent to a refusal of the application. Now, finally, I want to refer you to the example that I have provided in my submission. That's a project which I believe got approved last year. A very similar situation on the corner of the signalized intersection. Albany Highway crossover, left in, left out, Bedford Street crossover, full movement, got approved, no issues, no recommendations for the Bedford to be left in, left out, considering that that site services some other land uses. It's not just a service station, so it generates far more traffic. And that site has been constructed, now operating. There are no issues there. So considering all the technical and practical aspects of the matter, in our opinion, there is no justification for condition 8, and respectfully we request that that condition is deleted. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We'll reserve questions after the next presenter.
Thank you, Presiding Member. I'm Josh Watson from Planning Solutions, and I'll be speaking in support of the proposed development of the service station at 1510 Albany Highway in Beckenham. We're pleased to see the development recommended for approval to the panel today. We've worked through the design of this development from pre-lodgement through the assessment of the application. And I think that's reflected by the positive recommendation to the panel today. And I'd like to thank Brenton and his team for their assessment and working with them over the last 12-18 months. The design that's been put in front of the panel today works with the lot layout, surrounding roads and prevailing industrial and commercial character of the area. And we've worked through a number of design aspects to ensure a functional and optimal design that also works with the planning framework and will present a positive built form to this location. We feel we've got this design right, and I think the city are very much in agreement to that with the report to council today, to the panel today. As Benham's highlighted, we do request condition 8 be removed, and I think Benham's clearly articulated those traffic grounds and the technical aspects, so I won't go into those in any detail. I think this technical analysis and information that Benham has provided, and he has been involved in hundreds of service stations. They really got to the bottom of how they work and operate, and how they work and operate with that road network. And from our end, we simply want to outline some of the non-technical matters. So firstly, Burke will be leasing this premises from the landowner, and in order for them to do so, as part of contractual arrangements, they require that full movement access to William Street from our property. Ultimately, that condition is pivotal to the successful implementation of this development. To add to that, motorists that utilise service stations the majority of the time are return customers. So they know where the site is, they're travelling on that road network a lot. And when motorists already know the site, they identify the price of the fuel, and then they manoeuvre into the site. They want to have that clear, simple, direct vehicle access to the facility. If this is not a simple and easy movement for them, they often bypass the premises and go to the next ones. That's where any service station provider, and as part of the design, that is one key fundamental aspect to the successful operation of their facility. And this site's not alone in that. This is also very similar to a lot of the other businesses along William Street that require that full movement access. And I think every other business along William Street has the ability to have right in and right out access. And as well, that acts on the Benham comment around the 24-hour operation of this facility. This is a business that will operate 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So even if peak hour goes for 2 hours in the morning and 2 hours in the afternoon, we're still talking about 20 hours a day, 7 days a week, where this would restrict hundreds of vehicles a day coming in and out of that site, which will have a significant impact on the operations of the facility. Also to add, thirdly, the Coates Hires operate on that site for 20 plus years. They operated successfully, and they utilised the existing crossovers to both William Street and Albany Highway. As part of their operations, they did have a morning peak and afternoon peak for people coming in and out of the site, often with trailers too, to hire the equipment. So, and as that crash data demonstrates, they did quite easily without a problem. And lastly, tanker deliveries. I think we require that right out movement for tankers. Tankers often come during non-peak times. Because this is a 24-hour facility, tankers will generally service the site when they're less busy, so that they have optimum movement. To ensure we don't have an excessively large crossover to William Street, that right out movement ensures that can happen, and it is a pivotal component to this development. To finalise my deputation today, thank you for the support from the City of Gosnells. I think we're supportive of the remainder of the conditions. I think they're very logical in and standard requirements for this type of development. We do request condition 8, as we've gone through all these matters today, be removed. And both Benham and I are happy to answer any questions from the panel.
Yes, anyone have questions of the panel? Councillors? Councillor Baines, you're on mute. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I just confirm if a fuel tanker can exit onto?
Sorry, we can't hear you, Councillor Baines.
Oh.
We can hear it online though.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
I can hear you.
Okay. Can I please confirm if a fuel tanker can turn out onto William Street making a left turn?
They can.
Yes.
Oh, sorry.
Do we have the swept path plans in the?
We have tested that. That's quite problematic. They can. It's quite problematic because they have to use both lanes of William Street to turn, and depending where the tanker want to go, the tanker may sit at an angle across both lanes, particularly if the lights are red, and that's a really undesirable situation to have.
Okay, thank you. And one more question. From William Street, is there the option to restrict right in but still allow right out?
The option, of course, is there, but the impact on the commercial operations of the development would be significant. As I pointed out and Josh reiterated, to address some potential issues during 10-15 minutes a day to impact the balance of the 24 hours in terms of accessibility is quite significant, and in my view is an unbalanced imposition to have on the business operations of the development.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Yes, Lindsay? Oh, Jackie, sorry, you can go next.
Thank you. I'd just be interested in the city's comments on in response to the presentations. I also note that the presentations were received quite late, so obviously we haven't been able to go back to Main Roads to explore some of their reasoning, but if the city could provide some comments, please.
Okay, perhaps we'll just wait now, Jackie, to Lindsay might have another question. We can wrap them up into one question. Lindsay?
Sure, thank you. Are the sight lines adequate to allow any right turning movements onto William Street?
Yes.
Okay, and there would be no obstruction of signage there at all?
No.
All right. I suppose just also to clarify the question that the councillor asked about the swept path analysis, which I've got in front of me, that this is the one I presume for the tankers, isn't it? Yeah, okay.
Yes, that's the left in, right out.
Yeah, alrighty. So they would struggle to turn left. Are they turning right to return back to where they came from, to their depot as such?
Correct.
So they don't really want to turn left because that doesn't take them back to where all tankers need to go
Correct.
back to.
Correct.
Okay, yeah. Alrighty, thank you, that's all from me.
Okay, well, I have a question regarding the cross easement with lot 9. What's the relationship between lot 8 and lot 9?
So there's currently an easement on the adjoining lot.
So in favour of?
In favour of public to have access over that, the vehicle access way there.
Do you know whether that extends beyond lot 9?
I think it extends.
Brenton perhaps could help us.
Yeah, I know it extends on their property. I'm not sure as it goes further north, but the condition there and we're supportive of is would have a similar easement on our property to connect to it.
For the public at large?
Yeah.
Yes,
Which
okay.
would align with where their access way
That
is.
will go through to Albany Highway, that cross that exists,
It will largely just be along the William Street frontage.
okay, just to the crossover.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, well, we'll get clarification on that from Brenton shortly. So are there any other further questions of the presenters? Yes, Lindsay.
Yeah, sorry, just actually following on from Jean's comment there. So if there's a reciprocal rights of access between these two lots, is it likely that if people can't turn right from the service station, they will simply go on to the next lot and turn right, in fact?
They could, and I suppose this goes back to some of the comments I made in mine. If we make it a longer movement for vehicles to come in, it becomes problematic for the operator, and often people won't take that extra movement through. What that reciprocal right actually generally allows is people that are already visiting those other businesses, they can then traverse to our premises for their operations. So it puts a significant burden on that property as well. Every vehicle is to then come through that crossover then into our site. So it's more for that cross movement of trade between the two businesses.
But if I may add, but nothing will prohibit, if the easement is there, nothing will prohibit the service station traffic to turn right in and right out. So really, if there is an issue, that issue will be transferred 10 meters down the road. So by blocking this crossover, we are actually compounding whatever issue it is we are trying to resolve, because we are adding traffic, including right turns, increasing it at one crossover. So the risk of queuing will increase, delays will increase, notwithstanding the significant impact unnecessarily on the adjacent business.
But it could help the problem that's been highlighted by main roads, in the sense that if the vehicles turn left off Albany Highway and weave, then they've got a longer distance to weave into, which makes it a lot safer. And also, if there is a queue, it may not be as far back as the adjoining Lot 9 crossover. So movement, that would help sort of overcome any queuing anyway.
I think those occasional queuing, unfortunately, extends to that crossover as well. And in terms of weaving, if you have an extra 100 meters to weave, sure, that will improve. But if you actually have a look at, again, the area, if you want the adjacent crossover and turn, not stay on the left to the last minute and then weave, is just go across, go into that painted median and just drive for 5 meters and then stack to turn right. So my view is that exactly the same weaving movement will occur, but my point being that demand is so low because traffic can just go straight through the lot and access the service station by turning left into the service station. That I don't actually think that is a high probability concern.
Yeah. Unless, of course, you're a regular to the service station, realise that you can do that. Say it correct.
Correct.
All right, well, I have no further questions. Are there any other questions of the presenters? If not, I'll open it up for panel members to get a response from Mr. Scambler. Brenton, would you like to comment on some of those comments from the presenters and questions we raised?
Yeah, so Jane, thanks for the opportunity to respond. Firstly, I guess from a pure planning point of view, like town planning, that is, there's not really any huge need to restrict movement from that crossover, and it purely comes back to a traffic safety and engineering point of view. So we've obviously taken advice from our engineers and then obviously referred it out to Main Roads for comment. As you probably know, when we do refer matters to Main Roads, if the city has objections to Main Roads conditions, typically that would then go off to the WAPC for a dual approval under the MRS. We've discussed with our engineers the suitability of Main Roads conditions on that, and the concern of Main Roads was, in regards to the weaving, was also a concern of our traffic engineers. And the concern is not so much that it's basically our concerns were, if you've got a red light on Albany Highway heading east, and you are a regular to that site, and you raised this point too, Jean, the desire would be, if you're a regular to that site, you'd use that free flow slip lane, and then you would do a right movement into the site. Now, if it's a red light on that section of Albany Highway, then it's going to be green heading through that intersection coming on to William Street. And it might be a pretty low occurrence that it happens, but in that event that it does happen, you've only got realistically from the end of where those two lanes merge to actually try and make that manoeuvre, you've only got about 23 metres to get from the left-hand lane across the right-hand lane and then into that central median. And I take the point that Benham makes that median is painted and it is quite wide, and that's true. But the distance from the edge of the hard raised median to the actual entry of the crossover, so the stacking that you've only got about 7 metres. So you'd have to be basically, by the time you get to make that turn in, the back wheel of your car is going to have to be almost hard up against the raised median to actually fit within that central median to then do the right turn into the crossover. So when we looked at it on balance, we were pretty supportive of main roads condition. We're not too concerned about the right out movement from that that crossover for the tankers. We'd be happy to keep that, but we'd really want to try and restrict that right in movement. And the point that you made, Jean, the way that public access easement arrangement is between lot 8 and lot 9 would effectively give then vehicles another 30 metres to pull into the right-hand lane to what our traffic engineers are saying would be a safer option. They could turn right into that additional crossover on the other site and then come back in by virtue of that easement. So that's where I guess our traffic engineers were coming from, and the reason why the condition ultimately was recommended.
Okay, thank you. Jackie, I think you had some questions before. Sorry, Councillor.
Yeah, I think Brenton has covered those, and I would like to explore further that restriction of that right in movement, because I think that because it is an extremely busy intersection, that would be a reasonable approach. But yeah, I think Brenton answered my question, so thank you. Okay,
Councillor Adams, you had a question there, sorry.
Yeah, is there a way that we could just have a leave the median strip as it is and just put a no right turn for right in, but allow right out? So we could have a sign in the middle of the street, no right turn, just at the end.
Brenton?
Is that an option?
Any signage in the road needs to be approved by Main Roads, so I'm not sure whether that would be a possibility as to whether or not Main Roads would allow that signage to occur. Typically what they'd want us to probably see would be, as per the condition, that they provided and extend the median out to prevent that right in movement.
Would the extension of the median stop the right turn out?
I guess it would depend. Probably depending on how that median was designed, it could potentially be designed to prevent the right in but allow the right out movement.
Okay, yes, Councillor Adams.
I was just going to reiterate that. Is there a way that could happen then, that we could make an amendment for that to be on condition 8, that it be extended far enough to prevent a right in but still allow a right out for the tankers?
Anything's possible, Councillor, on those conditions? Yes, Jackie.
I was going to say that swept path that provided showed that the truck could do a right out with the median extended. So I think that Councillor Adams's idea should work.
Thank you. Any other further questions of Brenton?
Just one.
Lindsay?
Brenton, this is really just for a clarification. Condition number 5 says the drainage plan must show, and it's got a number of parts to that condition.
Yeah.
At part 4, There's
Yeah.
two sections in there. It says all invert levels falls to paved areas. Should they be together, or should falls to paved areas be a separate?
That should have been separated. I'm not sure why that's pulled together like that.
Okay, so we could sort of move to fix that administratively.
You could, yes.
Yep. All right. Thank you. That was all.
Thank you.
Okay, any further questions? If not, thank you for the presenters and Brenton. If we do in our discussion, panel discussion, have any further questions or clarification, we will ask you if you don't mind. Okay, so we move on to the next item on the agenda, which is the discussion on the item by the panel. Do I have a mover and seconder for the substantive recommendation? With Councillor Adams, seconded Councillor Baines. Yes, Councillor Adams, you can speak to the item, please, as the mover. Sorry, you're on mute at the moment.
Sorry about that. I'd just like to ask Brenton or Mr. Scrambler if it's possible to make an amendment to condition 8 to remove the right out movements. So basically to read, prior to the occupation of the development, the existing medium on William Street is to be extended as far as practical to prohibit right in movements to the site, and just remove the right out movements.
I'd be comfortable with that.
Okay, that's an amending motion for that. So, Councillor, go ahead if you wish to speak to the item and move that as an amending motion now.
I have nothing further to say. I think it makes sense. I think everyone understands where we're at with that.
Okay, so you're supporting on the item, however, you're moving an amendment to condition 8 so that the words in the second line and right out are deleted, and in the third line the words from are deleted.
Correct.
Okay. All right. Do we have a seconder for that amending motion?
Sorry,
Jackie?
I think it's meant to be prohibit right in movements to the site.
Right in.
Yeah. Right. Sorry. Yes, that's it. Sorry, I didn't have the. And so to prohibit right in and. So
no,
just
delete and right out and delete from.
Oh, yeah, correct. Sorry. Wasn't concentrating then.
Okay, so prior to the occupation of the development, the existing median on William Street is to be extended as far as practical to prohibit right-in movements to the site.
Yes, that sounds better.
Okay? Without preventing right-in access to adjoining Lot 9 for the satisfaction of council on the advice from Main Roads. So that's the amending motion you're putting. We have a seconder. Do we need any discussion?
I'm happy to second.
Okay. Any discussion on it? I'd like to speak against the motion on the basis that the development does rely significantly on the right-in movement. I think the applicants have shown that it's a small proportion of the total of the operation of the site. And I'm also more comfortable with the fact that there is a cross-easement with adjoining Lot 9, and that can in fact reduce the number of movements turning right from William Street into the site, and regular users of the service station will, if they can't turn right without weaving quickly or being restricted by the queuing traffic, which is only for a very small proportion of the overall operation of the site, they still have the ability to go into adjoining Lot 9. So I think that that's a good idea that reduces a lot of the impact of this minor weaving movement and blocking by queuing traffic. I'm not sure whether Main Roads, in fact, was aware that there was an easement across Lot 9 in the referral to them. Maybe the applicants could have convinced Main Roads that it's a far less problem than what Main Roads considers. The other thing is that a lot of developments along William Street will have free and unrestricted movement to their site. So I'm speaking against the motion and would prefer to see the condition as is. Anyone else wish to speak? Lindsay?
Yeah, I'm going to speak against the motion. I won't support the amending to the wording of condition 8. And in fact, depending on where that goes, I would probably move to actually delete condition 8. So I won't be voting for the motion as it stands at the moment.
Okay. Jackie? Wish to speak?
Yeah, I'd be speaking for the motion. I think it's an extremely busy intersection, and I think that anything we can do to improve road safety of users, and I think that Main Roads and the city have extensively assessed the potential impacts. They know the local area, so I would be speaking for the amending motion.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else wishes to speak? Councillor Baines, you have to speak.
Thank you.
Yes, go ahead.
I will also be supporting the motion. I think that it makes sense to allow the fuel tankers to be able to make that easy exit out of the petrol station, and also restrict the potential weaving and potential accidents that could happen in that area. So I'll be supporting. Thank you.
Thank you. Everyone's spoken. Councillor Adams, you wish to close the debate on that amending motion?
Yeah, look, I just think that number one, allowing the tankers to exit to the right obviously solves part of the issue or the concerns that they had. In terms of the weaving, by extending this only far enough to prevent the right in, still allows those potential customers to turn in at the lot next door. So I personally, with this small change, I don't think there's going to be any loss of business, and it will assist the tankers in getting out. So I think from my perspective, it's the best option we have.
Okay. All right, well, everyone's had a chance to discuss it. I'll put the amending motion to change the wording on condition 8. All those in favour? Against? It's carried. Thank you. Okay. Are there any other amending motions foreshadowed?
Okay. I had quite a bit that I would have liked to have said about condition 8, which may have made some difference, but I guess there's no point in going there now. I will be supporting the actual development application. The uses of the service station, convenience store and associated signage are discretionary under the zoning of the planning scheme, and they're acceptable in this location. I note that there's some minor discretion which would be required to be granted in relation to the landscaping, height of the pylon sign, car parking and setbacks, and for the reasons outlined in the RAR, these are acceptable. I didn't accept the matter in relation to condition 8 because these are actually local roads. Although Main Roads has been invited to comment on these, I don't believe its advice was binding in that respect. I do understand the safety issue of it, but in fact there are many service stations, including the one that I live behind, which has 3 crossovers, including 2 onto a primary regional road with full turning movements, nevertheless. I do have a small number of administrative changes. Now, some of them I've actually already gone through with the DAP Secretariat. They're simply formatting where some of the words have got squashed together. I understand that they can change those before the decision letter comes out. I do move in relation to condition number 5. Again, it's an administrative issue that at part 4, where it says all invert levels, and then the words falls to paved areas be a separate numerical number of that condition, and that the other conditions be renumbered accordingly. So it's principally administrative. Similarly, with respect to condition 12, part V, just rather than the words the city's parking requirements, if that could be the city of Gosnells, just for completion there. With respect to condition number 2, again, where the word the city appears, that should just say the city of Gosnells in full. And the same.
Advice note number 2. Lindsay?
Sorry, advice note number 2. Yes, sorry about that. Advice note number 2. Advice note number 6 has a superfluous word in the word to, where it says the applicant is advised of to the following. It just needs to say of the following. And then part 2 of advice note 6, again, just where it says the city, that should say the city of Gosnells, just for completeness, really. So I put those proposals forward.
All right, well, we can treat that as an amending motion. And you've moved it. I will call for a seconder. I'll second it. Any debate on it? Jackie, are you seconding it or debating?
I was seconding, but yeah, that's fine.
Okay, well, you can second it. I'll withdraw my seconding. And I don't think there's any debate on that. So all those in favour of those amendments? Thank you, carried unanimously. Okay. Does anyone else wish to speak to the item? No. Councillor Baines, as seconded, do you wish to speak to the recommendation as amended?
Thank you. I'll just say that I'm in support of this application. I think it'll be a fantastic improvement to the area, which is becoming quite popular. I'm happy that we came to the conclusion on section 8, even though the statistics say that it's not that much of an impact. As a local to that area, it is a very dangerous patch of street to navigate, as there's a lot of ins and outs within about a 100-metre stretch. So I'm glad that we could come to that conclusion. But overall, I'm very happy with the application. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak to the item, Jackie? No? Okay. All right. Well, speaking to the item, I agree that it's a good development, a good design, and covers access and egress issues. Once again, I don't think the problem with the weaving is that great, and I just perhaps encourage, if the applicants have got a problem with it, then they could perhaps discuss it further with Main Roads and possibly come to a resolution there. So that being the case, Councillor Adams, do you wish to close debate on the item? No? Okay, then I'll put the item as amended with amendment to condition 8 and the other amendments as moved and adopted. All those in favour? Thank you. It's passed unanimously. Thank you very much. And moving on, item 4 on the agenda, Form 2 application 0 no section 31 SAP reconsiderations. I can't see under other business, SAT and Supreme Court appeals, they are to be seen on the website. Item 2, general business, if there is none. I will close the meeting at 10:28 p.m. Sorry. Okay, thank you, everybody.